who desperately need help.
Last question. You are running now, and we heard less than 24 hours ago the incumbent is going to run as an independent. What will you do that will govern differently than your opponent?
You know, I don't think it's about, I don't want to compare myself to anyone. Mayor Adams, I believe, makes his decisions, set his policy, put his administration in place, and I don't want to second guess that. What my administration would be about is what my administration has always been about, diversity, representing all New Yorkers, and getting things done. Remember what we did. Raise the minimum wage to the highest in the United States of America, put money in people's pockets, pass the best paid family leave program in the United States of America, passed marriage equality that said everybody's love is the same. This state passed that, it went all across the nation. We built a new LaGuardia Airport, we're building a new JFK Airport, new Moynihan train station, new Kosciuszko Bridge. Build, make government work, show things can get done, renew optimism in New York, make people believe and feel that New York has a future. Make government work. The Democratic Party calls itself a progressive party. You cannot be a progressive party if you don't make progress. And we're not making enough progress. And that's what I would do.
All right, former governor, oldest candidate in the race, Andrew Cuomo.
See? Never give the Reverend the last word. Amen.
Look right here, right in the middle. Ready, 1, 2, 3. To your left. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, right here, real quick, please. Governor, right here. Thank you. Governor,
1, 2. Now we have our second candidate, who is already the mayor of New York. Let us bring to the stage who said he's running independent, Mayor Adrienne Adams. Long time no see. Let me format we're doing. I'm asking a question, then our panel's asking two, and then your response. Let me ask you this. You were here yesterday morning while you were here to judge throughout all of the charges, and you announced later that you're going to run as an independent. If you run as an independent, there will be a Democratic contender and a Republican. Do you fear your running will help lead to a Republican like Curtis Sliwa having a chance to be mayor?
Well, listen, I think that if you had 20 people in the race, it would never help Curtis Sliwa be mayor. So let's be clear. It's going to be running on real issues. Curtis does not have any platform. There is no polling that will ever show that buffoonery is something that people want in electoral politics. So Curtis is not an issue.
Second question from me is there are those that have said that you have a good or at least fair relationship with the present administration. Many of us in the civil rights community, oppose him on DEI. oppose them on other issues. Are you now in a position as running to say that you will fight the White House if something arose that you were adamant about, including diversity? We just heard Andrew Cuomo say that he would make people that contract with the city have to commit to diversity. Are you willing to institute that?
Well, you know, and Rev, I heard clearly what you said when you said now. It's always been. There isn't a level of inconsistency in who I've always been. And we cannot allow the media to distort the record of who I've been. I fought against policing that was improper while a police officer. I navigated the crises in Albany while I was in Albany. I did the same thing as borough president. I have been consistent. If you do an analysis of my commentary throughout the last 40 years, you're not going to find anything that I'm saying now that I didn't say then. I'm going to fight any White House that is not going to benefit our city, including the previous one that cost us $7 billion for dealing with the migrant and asylum seeker crises that should not have came over our back. We sued the White House. When we lost our FEMA dollars, we're going to be consistent. And when we talk about DEI, has to be more than just a terminology. Having a program with not progress is just a program. I put $19 billion back into MWBEs. And so I don't want people to have a DEI program and then you look and you don't see diversity in their ranks. I have the first African-American first deputy mayor, first African-American women police commissioner, first African-American second African-American chief of staff under David Dinkins, who had the first one, first Trinidadian deputy mayor. You look through my administration, you see all of this chocolate, brother. You cannot tell me that I'm not doing my thing.
Appreciating that. So your administration is the first.
They were still reacting to the chocolate.
Thank you, Mayor. Your administration is the first that is now mandated by law to release racial equity plans, and I know your administration has been working on that. What is the plan for release and the timeline, and what does that entail?
We're talking about the racial equity plan that needs to be released, that we have the second African-American Corporation Council that is using her team to make sure when we release the plan that we are in compliance with the laws of the city. So the plan will be released. I trust Corp Counsel Muriel, who was reviewed by the city council to get approved, because we had to do it together. When she says Eric, she is the city's lawyer. When she says Eric, it's time to release it, I'm going to release it. I'm not going to overrule my attorney. I learned not to overrule the attorneys yesterday, and I'm not going to overrule my attorney. When the Corp Council tell us it's time to release it, we're going to release it. Right now, they're doing the analysis, and I'm going to respect her process of doing so.
Congressman.
Mayor, it's good to see you.
Always good to see you, man.
So I know you're watching the news. People running against you are talking about homelessness, the homelessness crisis. Governing's a lot more challenging than running for office. Tell us what's happening with this crisis, what's the plan, and what have your administration accomplished so far?
Listen, let me tell you something. Idealism collides with realism all the time. And you're going to have a lot of people who are going to adorn this stage and talk about what they're going to do. I always tell people, go back to what I ran on and then look at what I accomplished. I ran on public safety. We just announced today that in this quarter, we have the lowest number of shootings in recorded history in New York City. 80,000 illegal cars removed off our street. Decreasing crime in NYCHA, decreasing crime in our subway system. When you look at housing and homelessness, look at who is homeless. Ride the trains like I ride the trains, and you see that the homeless population are black and brown. January and February of 2022, when I first got elected, I went into the streets and I looked in the tents and in the cardboard boxes and spoke to people who were living on our streets. We had people living along highways, on our streets, under encampments, in our subway station. When I left speaking to them, bipolar, schizophrenic, stale food, human waste, drug paraphernalia, after speaking to them, I went and sat down with our team and said, we cannot allow people to live this way. Everyone on my team, for the most part, told me, Eric, don't even try to fight this. You can't turn it around. I said no to that. What is our accomplishment? Year 1 and year 2, folks, we built more affordable housing than any mayor in the history of the city in year 1 and year 2. We moved more people out of homeless shelter into permanent housing in year 1 and 2 in the history of the city. We put more people in housing using FEPS vouchers in year 1 and year 2 in the history of the city. We're planning on building more housing, twice as much as Mayor de Blasio and almost 1.5 as much as Mayor Bloomberg. And when we finish with this last zoning plan, we're going to build more, 30% more than any other mayor in the history of the city. So I'm not just talking about it, I'm doing it. I'm placing people in housing in a real way. That's how you deal with homelessness. But there are policymakers that created the homelessness. Go look at when you removed the Advantage program, you saw a spike in homelessness when you took that program away. And so when it's come down to dealing with people with severe mental health illness, we build more and have put more people in supportive housing. Running a city is complex. If you allow the noise and naysayers get in your way, you will never accomplish the success that we've done. Don't listen to the noise, folks. Go look at the numbers. We're doing it every day.
So thank you, Mayor. You mentioned homelessness. You talked about mental health. 57% of the people who were in Rikers have mental health issues. And Rikers was legislated to close during the de Blasio administration by 2026, and it was moved to 2027. The plans are still stalled. Are you committed to closing Rikers, getting people the help that they need, and setting up a jail system that is more responsive to the community?
And I just really need folks to hear me, man, because popularity is not government. You are not closing Rikers in 2027. It was a flawed plan. It wasn't a well-thought-out plan. Think about this for a moment, folks. We are going to close Rikers. Started out costing us $8 billion. Now it's up to $16 billion. And the population of opening the 4 more new jails, it could house about 3,600 people. The current population at Rikers right now is 7,100 people. So we're going to spend $16 billion, build 4 more jails that cannot hold the population of those who are inside. Now let me give you something else. 51% of the people at Rikers are dealing with mental health illness. 20% are dealing with severe mental health illness. So here's what I believe we should do. Let's build one jail. Instead of a jail, let's build a state-of-the-art psychiatric facility and give people the help that they need and stop criminalizing people who are dealing with mental health issues. That's what we should be doing, and not just building 4 smaller Rikers Islands that can't fit the population. That makes no sense at all, and the plan was flawed from the beginning, and no one wants to stand up and be honest about it and say it shouldn't be. And you know where people are going back to? They're going to go back to your communities. That's where they're going to go back to. And I say no to that. Let's do it right if we're going to invest $16 billion.
Congressman, last question.
So, Mayor, you announced yesterday, that you'll be running as an independent for re-election. Just want to get your sense quickly about where you stand with the National Democratic Party. Do you feel like the party has left you, and do you still want to see the National Democrats successful in the upcoming midterm election, particularly with that meaning Hakeem Jeffries gets the gavel as the speaker?
Listen, Hakeem is my brother. I got a picture of the $500 check I wrote when he first ran for assembly, and nothing would do me a greater level of love and seeing him ascend to be the majority leader, the first African American to be the majority leader. I come on the footsteps of David Dinkins, the first African American mayor. Look, I didn't leave the party left me. When we stopped talking about real issues that impact working class people every day, when we start to intellectualize and be philosophical about those issues that don't touch real people, when I go to town hall meetings, they are talking about real issues: affordability, housing, educating their children, public safety. This is what I'm hearing. And I talk on behalf of working class people. I'm a Democrat. I'm running as an independent because we would have thought this case would have been over a long time ago. The elections is in June. I collected 25,000 signatures. I wanted to run in a Democratic primary, but I have to be realistic. I have to let New Yorkers know what I have done, and this case that has overshadowed our success, the most diverse administration in history of this city. And let's not kid ourselves. When you pick up the papers, you don't read what we have done. You don't read what we have done for foster care children paying their college tuition. We don't read what we have done by giving high-speed broadband to NYCHA residents, the more jobs in this city history, the more small businesses in the city history, dropping unemployment in black and brown community by 20%. You don't hear all the achievements we have made and the records we have broken, bond raters increasing our bonds, fourth largest tourism in city history, the excitement in the city. You don't read that. You read that, hey, we saw Eric eating a piece of fish, but you don't hear all the success that we have been doing. We turned this city around through COVID, through 250,000 migrants and asylum seekers. We put 150,000 children into early childhood education. We're outpacing the state in reading and math. When you look at what we have done, I don't even wonder why I'm still asking to be reelected. I should be reelected.
One more. All right. Let me ask the last question from me and from this panel. We have the other candidates. You and I go back probably 35 years, and we've always been honest with each other. I've never felt you were dishonest, and I've never been dishonest with you, even if we disagree. In the activist community, I want you to answer this once and for all. Is there or has there been any kind of help, understanding, unspoken, spoken, alliance, understanding, policy, or whatever between you and Donald Trump?
First, let me answer straight no. I raised my hand in federal court and answered that question. But I am going to say this to you, Rev, and I just want to be real candid and transparent. People broke my heart. Broke my heart. Folks knew me for 40 years. 40 consistent years. My car being shot at, the life I had to live in the police department, being almost fired and losing my pension because of me standing up on behalf of the city. Standing up on behalf of the city, where I saw Washington, D.C. give us 230,000 migrants and asylum seekers, $7 billion out of the budget. I could have taken $200 million of that and went after chronically absent children. I could have taken $500 million of that and built housing for our seniors. We're going to have the long-standing impact of that. And when I saw people who slept on my couch, when they lost their housing, or people I helped pay their mortgages, or people who I sat in hospitals with and sat in precincts when their children were arrested, trip over themselves and say, I need to step down. The hell with you, I'm gonna step up. I'm the mayor of this city. I'm the second African-American mayor in this city. And then after the call was to have the indictment dismissed, everyone was saying I should be removed, lobbying the governor to remove me. This is what you do to an African-American mayor that gave his life for this city. I'm not a new Eric Adams, I reinvented Eric Adams. I'm the same Eric Adams that was there that started NAN over 30-something years ago. And so my heart is broken. But I'm not gonna be angry, because God is good, and I'm gonna bless the Lord at all times. His praise will continuously be in my mouth. And when others turn against me, Jesus stand with me. And I'm gonna be the mayor and get reelected, because God will be done.
Eric Adams. Next. Next, we have candidate for mayor, member of National Action Network as well, and the Speaker of the New York City Council, Adrienne Adams. President Adams, first of all, I want to ask a two-part question to get started.
Yes.
One, I've known you a long time, and you've been a real public servant. And I know you've been a consistent and persistent member of this organization and of Allen AME Church. I know that it was not, y'all don't need to press, the talking is up here, not between y'all. Stop that. No. Whatever they doing, let them do it. Y'all are disturbing. All right. I know it was not among your list of ambitions to run for mayor. I know that when it had come up months ago, you had planned another way you were going. You and I talked about it. But then something turned you around. And I want you to explain why you decided to run. Secondly, I've asked Mr. Cuomo and I asked Mr. Adams, the fight around DEI, which is central in the civil rights community, that this president has declared war on. If you are successful in being mayor, would you fight that everyone that gets a city contract must also have a diversity program? That's a two-part question.
Thank you very much, Rev. Good afternoon, family. It's always a pleasure to be in your company. You're right, Rev. This time, this is different. And what I have felt, along with a lot of New Yorkers that I have spoken with, as having a constituency in South Jamaica and being a part of the city council for almost a decade, we speak to our constituents and we understand the temperature of the people. And what I had experienced was trauma among the people of the city of New York, trauma in my own district, trauma because of the distractions that were brought to our city because of the issues that our mayor was having, quite frankly. I don't think anybody in this room was unscathed because of the situation with the mayor. It was traumatic for a lot of folks. And I sat back and I watched as the race went on, and I did not see, quite frankly, momentum that I was hoping to see in the mayoral race. I was unsure whether or not, quite frankly, the mayor would make it due to his situation. I'm very glad that he's okay. I do want to say that. Very glad that Eric is okay. But there came a time where I noticed that not one, not two, not three, but 4 deputy mayors decided to resign at the same time. That was beyond a red flag for me. For me, that was tantamount to the brains walking out of a computer. And when I saw this in my mind, I saw the infrastructure of New York City crumbling as the person who has been sitting on the other side of City Hall in leadership of a women majority body, handling the business of the people and leading this city, quite frankly, when we really have had no real leadership. And so, in seeing the brains walk out of the computer and watching this happen, I said, there is no way that I cannot do something. I have to do something. And I prayed about it because you all know I'm a woman of faith. And I also got, as we say in the business, incoming from a lot of elected officials and some non-elected officials, and I was encouraged by my family as well, to get out there and do something. The city needs a leader. The city needs something different. The city needs to go without trauma, without drama, without scandal, without corruption. The city needs something different. And so I took a deep breath and believed my God, and I jumped into this race. And when I jumped into this race, what I felt was an enthusiasm that was not there before I got in this race. I felt women electrified again after coming off of Sister Kamala's race. I felt my sisters behind my back and pushing me and saying, "Sister, you got this. We need you to do this." I felt the strength of my own momentum, fired up for our former vice president and the work that we had done on her campaign trail, and knowing that that energy was still out there, and yes, we still need somebody that can do that job, and yes, women can lead, and yes, women hold all of the strings that make this nation great. And so I felt the strength of that power, and I went and I got in this race. And my launch was something that I never expected. When I walked into that launch, I saw people from the back of the room all the way to the back this way and up on the balcony, and the people came out to cheer me on and to say, "Yes, we believe in Adrienne for the people. We believe in Adrienne for public service because she's always been a true, true servant, not about herself, not somebody that comes out here and speaks accolades about me, and ego, and all this is about me. It's about you." My fight is about you. I'm not in this to power Adrienne. I'm in this to empower my people. And so that is what fortified me. That is what moved me. That is what pushed me to get into this race. New York needs a change. New York is bleeding and hemorrhaging right now, and we need something different. We need a touch from a woman that can get this thing done right. Somebody that's not afraid of Donald Trump, nor will hawk his people's books. We need somebody that's not going to cower in a corner, but will speak truth to power, real truth to power, but will also be able to collaborate when necessary. We can do all of those things if we have the right person on the side of City Hall who is truly for the people. And yes, Rev, I put in a resolution to condemn Donald Trump's stance on DEI. That's already done. So where others may not want to come out and talk about Donald Trump and what about he's done and that he's doing and that he's messing up and desecrating everything that you and I have fought for, our civil rights, our human rights, our people rights, our children's rights, I have already put in that legislation to condemn this man for his stamp on DEI. You know, somebody had the nerve to call me a DEI speaker. I said, "Thank you very much." So that work is already done for DEI, and yes, I will go through the contracts at City Hall. I will know who is coming through here to talk to my people about who they are doing, what they are doing, and why they are doing, and yes, they better include you and me.
Well, from one DEI woman to another DEI woman.
My queen.
It is families who are struggling the most and single-headed households who are struggling the most in New York City right now with affordability and economic security. What would you do in your administration to address their struggles?
Thank you, Sister Jennifer. You know, for those of you that are watching, the way that the City Council has operated under my leadership has been very different than the way that my predecessors have operated. You have seen issues brought for the forefront that nobody's ever really cared about before. We've brought those issues to the forefront. We've taken them out of the back, and we've pushed them forward so that everybody can see them, so that we can come up with solutions together. Those situations have to do with Black maternal mortality. All right, if we were to take a survey in this room, I guarantee you that the majority of women in this room either have been there or know somebody that has been in a situation where their maternal mortality has been at stake, my own mother included. So we've taken issues like that and brought them into the light. We've taken the cover off of that thing. We've brought in issues of child care. Again, and I'm kind of selfish, I'll tell you all this, I'm kind of selfish with the way that I legislate also, because I'm the first wife, the first mother, the first grandmother up in doing this thing. So when I protect all of you, I protect myself, I protect my children and my grandchildren, who are my life's line. So when I come from visiting my daughter who has had to give up her income and now depend on her husband's income, because she can't afford child care raising 3 small daughters, I take that very personally, Jen. It's a situation that affects me. It affects the way that my family live, the way that my grandchildren are being raised, everything else. And so we bring issues of child care, and we legislate on issues of child care. We are going to, when I am mayor, deal with subsidies for child care. We're going to deal with expanding 3K and making that thing universal for once and for all. We're going to make that happen because we have to. We have to protect our families. We have to protect our children. We have watched black people leave this city of New York for 2 decades because they cannot afford to live here anymore. Again, it's personal for me. Personal for me. I have a daughter that moved away and lives in South Carolina with her 2 children because it's too expensive to live here. I want them back here with me. I don't want them leaving. I want my children and grandchildren here with me. I've got to do something about that, and that's something that I've been working with as leader of the city council and working to build housing. Affordability, we always hear affordable to who? We have to answer that question when I'm mayor and not just talk about building and what we're building. And we have to talk about and be honest about the honest answer to that question. Affordable for who? Not affordable to my kids that I want to stay here. So we have to be honest about the answer to that question. We have to have all of you in the room, and as mayor, I'm going to have you in the room with me. It's not, again, it's not about my ego and it's not about me. It's about you, the people. I want you sitting in that room with me to tell me what it is that you need from me as your mayor. I want to hear from you to help me make those decisions so that your decisions can become solutions to the problems that we face as a city. I'm going to need to hear from you to tell me what affordability truly looks like to you and your community. We can do this, but we've got to do it together, and not with ego, but with the power of the people working together.
Congressman.
Madam Speaker, really wonderful to have you here. So you manage a really diverse, politically speaking, city council.
Yeah.
And you're in the process of kicking off your campaign, introducing yourself perhaps to some other New Yorkers. Where do you think you stand on the ideological spectrum in the Democratic Party, and how does that fit in to this current race? Do you think of yourself as more progressive, a moderate, a liberal? Does none of this matter? How does this, where do you see yourself in the diverse coalition that is the Party in New York City?
It's a very interesting space, and I love, first of all, I love being a part of a diverse city council first. The most diverse city council that we've ever had, a city council that represents every single corner of the city of New York from all of our boroughs, all 5 boroughs, very, very diverse. I don't really like putting labels on myself because I find myself working in a space of, a more expansive space where some folks have called me moderate, some folks have called me progressive, some folks have called me left. I'm not all the way that left. So I have a hard time with labels, but what I do and what I've learned to do as an elected official is once again to legislate the way that we live and for the needs of our community, the wider needs of people of the city. If we box ourselves in, then we're going to limit the progress that we can make for all of the people. If I say that I'm all the way over here on the side of the right, moving towards the left, that's a box that I'm now putting myself in legislatively to say, you know what? If I look outside of that box, I'm going to be looked at by some folks as this way and no longer being in their corner. If I pull myself all the way over here and stay here, then I won't be able to help the folks over here or over here. So I go where the people need me to go, where the legislation is reasonable, where the leadership, my leadership is steady, and where the needs of the people are the priority, and that's where I'm going to stay. I don't need a label to describe myself, because wherever the needs of the people are is where I want to be. I am that public servant that is not too proud to call myself one of everybody in this room, whatever that stance is. If it works for the bigger picture, then that is the label that I will wear.
Last question. Is it your feeling that if you were to be elected and if you were to become the mayor of this city, that as you have to face the state and federal government, that you could, and I heard you say this, I want you just to elaborate a minute on it, that you are capable of confronting and collaborating where it's necessary without in any way betraying your principles?
I absolutely believe that I will. To a large extent, that's a lot of the work that I've already been doing. And I keep saying that, you know, as Speaker of the Council, I'm the only candidate, aside from the incumbent, that has already put forth 3 successful city budgets, negotiated them all, and I'm now on my 4th, which we will negotiate successfully again. The only candidate in this race that has that experience. I've been walking up the steps of City Hall for almost a decade. I know how to lead in the halls. All I need to do is move from one side of the building to the other, and I think everybody will be straight. So I'm not going to need a transcript or a handbook or a manual to figure this thing out, because I've already been doing the work of a leader, a true leader for the people of the city. As far as collaborating with state, that's something also that I already do. I have a very good relationship with the governor, and you're going to need somebody. You know, New York, we've got a target on our back no matter who the next mayor will be. And we're going to need somebody that has this experience all the way around. Not just that, but somebody that truly, truly understands governance for this city. City is not state, right? This is a whole different thing that we do here on a local level. In a lot of ways, it's a lot more expansive because there are a lot more layers to the governance of the city. We've got agencies out there. We've got commissioners. We have advocates. We have nonprofits. There's layer upon layer. We have constituents. Layer upon layer upon layer of what we deal with on a local level. So folk may come in, you know, with state experience, trying to reinvent themselves, thinking that we all have short memories. We don't. We don't. We don't. Some of the same situations that we're dealing with right now are as a direct result of those policies that our former governor put forth, and we are now seeing a spiraling effect on the homeless situation, on the situation when it comes to mental health situation because of the facilities that he closed. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. On the COVID situation. Anybody come from a community of color? You remember what we had to do to get PPE and life-saving vaccines? You remember who got them last? You remember who was in charge of getting that, all that to us in communities of color and who did not? As Rev would say, hello. Don't have short memories. I don't. I lost my dad because of COVID. I'm not forgetting nothing. life-saving vaccines, PPE. Our health workers were wearing garbage bags. Don't forget that. One person could have made a difference a lot sooner than he chose to do. And instead, we got a lot of lives lost during that pandemic. Don't forget, I'm not gonna forget, but somebody is betting that you will forget. There is too much at stake here. Way, way too much at stake here. New York City runs very differently than the state. I've been a leader in this city for, almost a decade now, and the speaker for almost 4 years, leading one of the only women majorities in the entire nation, and I feel that we've done a very good job of that. A very good job of that.
Adrienne Adams, President of the New York City Council.
Everybody look right here.
Thank you. All right. Shh. We're going to bring out now candidate for mayor of New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. All right, Controller Lander, let me ask you at the outset, I've asked all the preceding candidates that one of the central issues in the civil rights community, and you here at National Action Network, is diversity, DEI. And I, in full disclosure, have worked with you probably more than the other candidates around this issue. If you were to become mayor, would you commit to making sure people that did business with the city also had built into their corporate structure and strategy a diversity plan?
Good afternoon, National Action Network. It is great to see you all, and it's great to be on this panel. I want to give a shout to Jennifer Jones-Austin, not only board member of NAN, but leader of Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, of that Charter Revision Commission that created the Commission on Racial Equality and mandated the true cost of living that the mayor has dragged his feet on, and I will get done. To Max Rose, who's shown that the Democratic Party can care about national security and about veterans and help build a bigger party, and especially to you, Rev, for leading the modern-day civil rights movement. So on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you say, I have walked the walk with the people in this room. I made a commitment to you. I made a commitment to National Action Network. I would get it done as controller. And in my time, we have grown by 40%, by $6 billion, the pension funds that are being managed by Black and Latino and Asian and women asset managers. And unlike some other DEI programs where the top categories are white women or Asian men, all due respect to white women and Asian men, the top category of our investment managers is Black investment managers. And they have outperformed their benchmarks by 5%. Some of the best performers in our program, Robert Smith, Tracy Maitland, Tammy Jones, they outperformed and delivered savings to taxpayers of $1.8 billion. So when we say we're going to stay the course on DEI, no matter what Donald Trump does, that's not only because it's the right thing to do, although it is the right thing to do, it's because it delivers for everyone, for all New Yorkers, and there's no way we're going back, all right? So, when I'm mayor, absolutely we will make sure that the people that do business with the city are participating in our diversity programs. And I'll tell you where the money is buried, because right now our emergency contracts and our nonprofit contracts are exempt from the MWBE program. That is billions of dollars. Even if you're a nonprofit running a shelter, your security contractor, your food contractor, your cleaning contractor, all are for-profit businesses. MWBE rules should apply. I'll unlock billions of dollars that go to Black and Latino and Asian and women contractors. And just one more thing here. You know, you and I have been out in the streets together protesting some of the business people that are fighting against trying to shred DEI. And I'll just say some of those are the biggest backers of Andrew Cuomo. So he stood up here and told you, I'm not even sure he really committed that he would do it, but his biggest supporters are the biggest opponents of DEI. And I have to tell you, as the highest ranking Jewish elected official in New York City government, some of those people, including Andrew Cuomo, are like weaponizing fears over Jewish safety against the Civil Rights Coalition. And I'm gonna work with you and the people in this room to restore that coalition, because a more inclusive city is safer for everybody, for African Americans, for Jews, and for everybody else. And that's my commitment to you.
Attorney Jones Austin.
So as much as 10% of our budget here in New York City is federal funding. And there are great threats to that federal funding. We could lose money for child welfare. We could lose money for food supports. We may lose money for Medicaid. The list goes on. And those are issues that concern all of us here in this room. How will you work to ensure if we lose that money, then the affordability becomes even more problematic? Economic security becomes even more problematic. What will you do to address affordability and economic security, given the risks?
So first, on standing up when Trump comes for our money, you remember when Elon Musk tried to take $80 million out of New York City's bank account a few weeks ago? It was my office who discovered it, who raised the alarm bell, and who pushed the law department into court. We're gonna get every penny of that $80 million back. That's not Elon Musk's money, that's your money. And as mayor, I'll stand up and fight for you, for your health care, for your housing, for your education. We deserve it. On housing, who here pays way more in housing than they can afford, whether that's your rent or your mortgage? I know it's everybody in this room. I've got a long history, 15 years before I was in office, of preserving and creating affordable housing. I did the biggest affordable housing project in Brooklyn in the last 3 decades. As controller, I saved the 35,000 rent-stabilized units that were put at risk when Signature Bank failed. Here's my favorite bit of affordable housing that I'm gonna do as mayor, because you need some land to build housing that people could buy homes on. Anyone on this panel have a guess how many city-owned municipal golf courses there are in New York City? What do you think, Rev?
No, folks don't trust me with a club in my hand.
How many do you think there are?
I have no idea.
I'm a golfer. I'll say maybe 25.
So there are 12 city-owned golf courses, 2,500 acres of land in a city starved for land. So here's what I'm gonna do. There will still be 8 when we take 4 of them and build 50,000 new affordable homes for New Yorkers, not just to rent, but to buy, like the old Mitchell Lama program, so your kids will have housing they can afford in great new neighborhoods with beautiful parks and schools, a modern-day Mitchell Lama, and new opportunities for the next generation of homeowners in Black and Latino and working-class New Yorkers.
Congressman.
You should seize one of those Mar-a-Lago golf courses, too. So
I like how you're thinking.
I want to talk about public safety. 2-part question. One, just to set the record straight, where do you stand on defunding the police? Do you support it? Have you supported all that? But more importantly, how do you plan on going forward to ensure safety for all New Yorkers and justice and fairness in policing for all New Yorkers?
Absolutely. Thank you for this question. So, first, I'm the only candidate with a real plan to recruit and retain the officers. We're down now, so I want to see us get up to the 35,000 budgeted headcount. We're down at 33,500. I'm going to do that by strengthening the NYPD cadet program. It pays for you to go to CUNY, but only if you already have 45 credits. So I'm going to open the NYPD cadet program up to young people when they graduate from high school. You can enroll in that cadet program. You will be able to get your tuition paid join the force, and then go on and get your college degree. So no, we need to invest in public safety. We need to make sure we get the number of officers up to that 35,000 budgeted headcount. I was the first candidate to say I would like to keep Jessie Tisch as police commissioner because I think she is doing a good job of reforming and outcomes. The number one commitment in my campaign is to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness, because we do not have to be a city where thousands of our mentally ill neighbors sleep on subway platforms and the stoops of our building. We don't have to. And look, you want to see cops on the subway at night when you're there, and you need to be able, as the current governor is pushing, to have a little more flexibility to have people go into a hospital. But if you don't connect people to housing with services, then they're just going to be right back on those subway platforms and the stoops of our building. I've got a plan called Housing First that is working in Houston and Denver and Salt Lake City, and it will work here to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness, and that will be a safer city for everyone.
Last question. You could have run for controller. You were not termed out. You chose to run for mayor instead. It would have been a safer political bet for you to run for re-election and controller. Most people, political pundits, feel no one could have defeated you. Why did you decide to give up an easy path to your next 4 years to try and run and win for mayor?
Thank you for this question, Rev, because it would have been easy for me to do that. And I really love the job as controller, helping make sure we're investing with more diverse asset managers and in affordable housing and auditing every city agency. But the city is broken right now. It is not working for working people. I'll give you just one example. We did an audit. We audit every agency. For NYCHA, I said, let's bring NYCHA resident in and create a NYCHA resident audit committee. What do you want us to look at? And they said, Controller, look at the repair vendors who are coming into our homes, because I'm telling you, half the time, they don't show up, they don't do the work. We go do the audit. 44% of the invoices had no backup. We have no idea if the work was done. And so then they said, what are you going to do about it? And we came up with this idea. A woman in the group said, I could rate my Uber driver. I could give a Yelp review to a restaurant. Why can't I do that for a NYCHA repair vendor? So we designed that program, Yelp for NYCHA repairs. And when I am mayor, before those vendors get paid, that resident will get a text or an email and the chance to say they showed up or they didn't, they were polite or they weren't, they did the work or they didn't do the work. We'll only pay them if they do. We'll have vendor scorecards based on what NYCHA residents say. We'll hire the ones who do the work, and we'll get rid of the ones that don't. I don't know what anybody else means, but that's what I mean when I say Department of Government Efficiency, one that works for working New Yorkers, and people are desperate for it, and I am the candidate who can help make that happen right now at this time, and I would love to have your support. Thank you guys very much.
Controller Brad Lander, candidate for mayor. We're moving quickly because I know we have other panels.
I gotta take my picture, sorry.
Everybody look right here. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Right here, brother. To your left. Right here, Brad. Everybody. To your left.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Let's bring on now Zohran Mamdani, candidate for mayor, member of the state legislature. Zohran. Zohran, you have caught the eye of some in the political media because you have polled higher than some of the others, and you've raised more money than some of the others, though one or two may be way ahead of you. What do you explain for the surge in support you seem to tangibly be showing? What does it say to us?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here, sitting alongside each one of you and in front of all of you. What I've found in the 5 months that I've been in the race is that New Yorkers are hungry for a different kind of politics. They're hungry for a politics that puts working people first. This is the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. And I often think of what you remind us, which is that when America catches a cold, Black America catches pneumonia. And we're seeing Black New Yorkers feel that inequality crisis in a way that is unmatched by any other set of New Yorkers in this city. And I think about the words of Dr. King, who reminded us, what good is having the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford to buy a hamburger? This entire campaign is about one thing: making this a city New Yorkers can afford. Making this a city where you're not priced out of the same one that you're building every single day. And that's what's been resonating.
I like it. Appreciate it. A lot of people like what you're saying, a lot of people. And then what I hear when they say they like what you're saying, the next thing they say is, but how's he going to pay for it? A lot of great policies that would impact many people and help people. How would you pay for it?
So New York has 10 states in the surrounding region that have a higher corporate tax rate than we do. We have a corporate tax rate of 7.25%. New Jersey had a corporate tax rate of 11.5%.
This is corporate tax.
This is corporate tax. This is a tax that applies to the most profitable businesses that are operating in New York. I believe we have to raise our corporate tax rate on these extremely profitable businesses to the levels of our neighbors. Just that, just matching what's been done, can pay for the bulk of this agenda. And I want to remind everyone, we used to have a higher corporate tax rate until we had a Republican governor in Pataki who cut that rate, and we still haven't recovered from it. And people may say, if you raise the taxes on corporations, might they leave? But the nature of our corporate tax law in New York State is that it taxes any business that does business here, not whether or not it's headquartered. And if our state was a country, we'd have the 10th largest GDP in the world. So I'm confident when I say no business is going to stop doing business here. They're in fact going to see that it benefits them when their workers can afford a place to live, a place to eat, a place to call their home.
Congressman.
Good to see you. So on the question of public safety, where do you stand and where have you stood on defunding the police? And what's your plan going forward to ensure safety for all New Yorkers and justice and fairness in policing for all New Yorkers?
Every New Yorker deserves to be safe. And earlier this week, I announced a plan to create a new department called the Department of Community Safety. This is a department that will aggressively pursue evidence-based policies to deliver the safety that New Yorkers have been denied. Let's be clear, police have a critical role to play in creating public safety. But right now, we are relying on them to deal with every single failure of our social safety net. And because of that reliance, they're being prevented from doing their actual jobs. And so what my proposal says is we should allow the police to focus on the major categories of crime, to address the fact that clearance rates are far too low, and to directly address, in ways that have been successful elsewhere in the country, mental health response, gun violence, victim services, homelessness, hate violence. And look, we know that these crises are not experienced equally. In New York City, a black man is 88 times more likely to be shot than a white man. And we have found that the most effective approach at rectifying that is a cure violence approach, is a treatment of gun violence as a public health crisis. So why is it that we don't have that in every single precinct in New York City? Why is it that we still have the same 10 neighborhoods as they were a decade ago, 2 decades ago, being the places where this happens? It's a failure of leadership. And that is what I will be bringing, is a new chapter in New York City that actually addresses these concerns directly.
Last question. You obviously know that whoever becomes mayor, you or any of your opponents, will have to deal with a White House that has taken many positions that many New Yorkers feel are negative. How would you be able to negotiate opposing this White House, but at the same time negotiating the goods and services you may need for the city out of the federal government?
You know, I really appreciate the question, Rev, because what it speaks to is what a leader has to deliver. as the next leader of this city, I will make it clear to Donald Trump and that White House that New Yorkers are non-negotiable. I'm not willing to give up a single New Yorker, because I say that as we have ICE agents pulling New Yorkers out of their own apartment buildings, pulling people off of the subway. And we know, in the words of Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark, when he faced an ICE raid in his own city, he said, you cannot fight extremism with moderation. You have to fight it with leadership. Now, if Donald Trump, who ran an entire presidential election on bringing down costs, says that, you know what, I want to actually bring down the cost of groceries, I'll tell him, I'll work with you. I'll work with you on bringing down the cost of groceries, because I'm the only candidate in the race that has a plan for doing that by creating city-owned grocery stores to address the food deserts we have across this city. But if Donald Trump says, I want to take New Yorkers from your city, I am going to say that we don't have to only choose between the collaboration of this mayoral administration or the cowardice of the previous administrations in Albany. We can, in fact, offer the promise and the courage of the future. And I just want to say one last thing, which is that I have appreciated the leadership of everyone on this stage, and especially you, Rev, on the question of DEI. Because this is not just an attack from the White House. It's an attack that is being echoed by businesses across this country. And as the mayor of this city, I will make it clear to businesses that it's in their best interest to uphold DEI principles and commitments. And that's not a hypothetical, that's not an idea, that's the stats. Because when you look at Target versus Costco, the same 4 weeks in February, you will see that Target lost 5.5 million customers in the same time that Costco won 7.7 million. It's good for business, it's good for morals, and it's good for New York City, and that's what I'm fighting for.
Give a hand. I love how you close. All right, give him another hand. I know we have another session, but we have about 3 more important candidates. Shh. Let me bring on the battler from Queens Legislature. Come on, Jessica Ramos. Come on, Jessica Ramos. Thank you for coming and being part of this. I'll start with the first, and then they have a question each. Let me ask you, you have, according to any of the politics and political pundits, a pretty safe seat. There has been no one that can doubt the constituents vote for you. Why would you give up a safe seat to run for mayor?
Well, first and foremost, thank you to the National Action Network for bringing us together. I know everybody here loves the city of New York as much as I do, and you're here to really learn about your options. And I am very proud of representing the community where I'm born, raised, and raising 2 beautiful boys. I've been a state senator for the past 6. This is now my 7th year. And I am very proud to say that I have a safe seat that I'm not giving up on, right? I don't have to give up my seat in order to run for mayor. But I've been increasingly frustrated with the fact that we can do everything we can in Albany. And I'll tell you, I'm the state senator who raised the minimum wage and tied it to inflation. I'm the state senator that's expanded child care eligibility, that's fought for paid sick leave for our domestic workers, who's created lots of wage theft laws in our state. But then I come back home from Albany, and all I hear is my neighbors complain about our streets being dirty in Jackson Heights. Just because we're poor doesn't mean our streets shouldn't be just as clean as the Upper East Side. We pay the same taxes as everybody else, if not more, especially if we're talking about property taxes. So my seat may be safe, but the homes that my neighbors are living in are not. Actually, in Lefrak City, we have ground zero for evictions in New York City right now. So we could have passed tenant laws in Albany to help, but at the same time, the mayor of the city of New York has not been providing the level of tenant assistance and services that are needed in order for tenants to have the legal representation they deserve to keep their apartments and actually reduce the index of homelessness. We have the biggest homelessness crisis in New York City than at any other given point in our lives. Right now, when more than 100,000 children are homeless. We failed them. And like 60,000 of them live in shelters, but the rest of them are living doubled up in apartments because the rent is too high and the wages are too damn low. And I say that as the chair of the Labor Committee in the state Senate. I come from the labor movement. All I've done is fight poverty because I'm tired of my communities being so poor. We work, but it doesn't really amount to much in this economy. And City Hall plays a really big role in bridging that gap in income inequality. It starts with MWBEs, and Jennifer might remember me. I was part of the team that created the mayor's office of MWBEs prior to being a senator. I was a member of the de Blasio administration. I was part of the team that delivered on universal pre-K. This is why I'm such a fighter and a champion for childcare and making sure that we're actually building out that capacity here in New York. We deserve that. That's how we jumpstart the economy, by giving Black and brown people more money and more opportunity.
You know, you've done so much. I appreciate the work that you've done on labor and wages. One of the greatest challenges we have is inequity for women, and many women with children in New York City are finding this city more and more unaffordable. So what will you do specifically about wage parity, wage equity for women, and particularly women of color?
Thank you for that question, because it really speaks to a lot of my life's work. I actually wrote the salary transparency law for New York State, so now companies have to list the price range, the salary range for workers on the job postings. And now we're going for part 2, where we're fighting to make sure that employers are also disclosing the benefits that are available. But if you ask me, a union woman, I think a collective bargaining agreement is the best way to guarantee that you're getting paid the same money as men who are doing the same work. And that can only be helped by universal child care and fighting the feminization of poverty. Because in creating the care economy that we need in order to flourish, in thinking about who takes care of our young ones and our elders, it's usually women and women of color who do that work. And it is backbreaking work. So when I hear that the city's retirees are not getting the health care that they were promised, and are trying to be sold to Medicare Advantage that came straight out of Project 2025, I know that I need to be a mayor that keeps my promises to our retirees. I know that I need to respect our seniors, and I want to make sure that we are helping women of all ages actually start more small businesses, because actually Black women and Latinas open small businesses at a greater rate than any of our other counterparts. So why not invest in us who know how to make that money and create those jobs?
Congressman.
Senator, so I want to talk casino with you. So there's this race to build casinos, to try to get them approved. You're literally going toe-to-toe with a billionaire not named Musk. Walk me through your thought process on not approving the casino being built in your district. And more broadly than that, you can't love jobs and not want employers. So how do we have job growth in this city without things like that happening? What's the plan in your mind?
There's a lot to say there. Let me start by saying that I am a woman that is very blessed to have been born and raised in the most diverse community in the entire world. We speak 200 languages where I come from, where I'm raising my children. And as the modern day Ellis Island on Roosevelt Avenue, we've had a lot of challenges when it comes to the lack of work permits that have been made available to the newest wave of immigrants. And I say that as the daughter of a woman who crossed the Mexican border to come to this country back in the 70s. So I have a deep respect for what people have to do to be able to provide for their families. However, City Hall, up until now, has not been an effective advocate for work permits, and the result has been lots of voids in our economy filled by bad actors who want to exploit migrants, whether it's as day laborers in construction or prostitution. On top of that, I have a 20-block stretch of Roosevelt Avenue without a trash can. We have a ton of street vendors who, under Adrienne Adams, their enforcement has moved from sanitation police to the NYPD. And that's a big difference because then civil summonses became criminal summonses. And criminal summonses go on immigrants' records and can lead to deportation. So we have lots of challenges. We have loan sharks on this avenue. And somehow people are going to try and convince me that if this same avenue ends in a casino, that somehow all of these quality of life issues we have will somehow go away. I don't believe that to be true. I have a bridge to sell you. I want us to invest in people, and we can create jobs in many different ways. I resent the fact that casinos are the premier economic development idea in New York State. We don't need our working poor to gamble in order to pay their bills. People came here to work, and if we actually answer the different crises of our time effectively, whether we're talking about the climate crisis, of which Black and brown communities are on the front lines, if we talk about the child care crisis, which I just made an argument for the fact that we're the ones who take care of everybody's children, if we talk about the home care attendants that take care of our elders, who are also mostly women of color, if we think about the affordable housing crisis and who those construction workers are, well, that sounds to me like a great way to build thousands of jobs in New York City that are not predicated on a casino. I happen to represent Corona, Queens, the biggest concentration of hospitality workers in the entire city of New York. No matter where that casino gets built, we're going to be cleaning and we're going to be cooking for you. So, does it need to be in our backyard off the 7? No, it does not.
Last question. Is it your belief, if you were to be elected mayor, that you could at the same time advocate for the people of the city, and where you had to get goods and services for the city that didn't violate your principles, be able to negotiate with Washington and Albany?
This is where my union training kicks in, Rev. The labor movement taught me when it's time to throw rocks and when it's time to throw a line in the sand and say we have to come to the table and negotiate. But being a sitting senator, I've wanted to lay the groundwork for when I am mayor to be in the best possible bargaining position, helping Governor Hochul stand up for that joke we have as president. And that is, last week, I introduced legislation telling the state comptroller to tabulate every single dime that we receive in federal funding, so that if and when Donald Trump says he's taking funding away from the state of New York, we withhold our taxes from the federal government. Let me tell you something. The backbone of New York's economy is sitting in this room right now. Right now. We pay taxes. We pay more in taxes than all those rich white men that are surrounding Donald Trump right now. Okay? And if he is going to say that he's not going to give us the money for transit, for infrastructure, Title I funding for our children with disabilities in public schools, if he's not going to fully fund SNAP benefits, then you don't need our money. And we should keep our money, reappropriate it, and fill those holes that he thinks he's going to leave. And we'd probably have a few cents left over.
All right.
Look, Rev, I'm ready to bring a gun to a gunfight.
Yeah.
And I know we're anti-violence here. I know we're anti-violence here. I know we're anti-violence here. But when Donald Trump is coming at immigrants of every color, when he's threatening women of every color, when he is threatening the LGBTQ community, when he wants to do away with DEI, that is exactly when we put our big girl pants on and we make sure we are playing hardball with the worst of queens. And that's why I want you guys to lead with the best of queens, so that our children are proud of who's occupying the halls of power, because we have to get it together. We have to be able to rebuild what a Black Wall Street once was. We want to rebuild what a Latino Wall Street can be. Look, make no mistake, I know who I am. I know I would not be on this stage without the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., okay? Through the Voting Rights Act, a lot of people don't know this, Latinos were not allowed to vote before 1965. So if I couldn't vote as an American-born citizen, I definitely couldn't be your senator today. And I definitely wouldn't be running to be the next mayor of the city of New York to create opportunity for our people. So it's time to stop the nonsense and to roll up our sleeves and actually get to work and deliver on the level of affordability this city deserves. We are tired, we are hungry, and we are ready to get what's ours.
Jessica Ramos. Jessica Ramos.
Don't forget not to rank any of those old recycled guys from the past. It's time for new leadership.
Let's bring on Let's bring on former city controller Scott Stringer. I told y'all about heckling now. Scott Stringer. Come on. Shh. I got to start another panel, but I'm going to try to do this, Ken. Scott Stringer, former city controller. Let me say this. Just a second. We are going to do the candidates. We were supposed to be through at 3:30, but I don't think it's fair that we don't hear from all of the candidates. Let them all. I want to say this. I'm asking, I know we were supposed to have been finished 10 minutes ago, but I'm asking Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin and the congressman to let us do all three of the last candidates. I've got to do this live TV hit, but they've agreed to stay and do this. And I want to say before I go do that, and I'll be back for the 4:30 set, is that all three of them I know and have worked with, and all three of them are qualified to be mayor, in my opinion. So I don't want anybody to say that anybody's a minor candidate. That is not so. And they said no, rather than go another day, they'll wait and answer the questions of the panel. All three of them have been in the House of Justice and answered my question. So I just want to do that because I know how some of y'all are. Well, Rev left, so they don't matter. I'm trying to make it real clear before y'all go through that little nonsense. Y'all got that, reporters? All of them are qualified, so don't try to make some. No, I didn't tell y'all that. See, there y'all go. That's why y'all ain't in City Hall. I didn't tell y'all get no chair. They're going to be properly introduced and brought out like if I was here. And they're going to give the same time, even though we overtime. Don't make them co-stars the Scott's thing. Scott got to take his best shot by himself. Then they're going to take their best shot by themselves. I know how this go. Everybody going to swing for the bleachers. All right. First, thank you, Controller. Yeah, they'll bring you back. I just want to let everybody know so they can't say that I didn't respect your candidacy, and y'all have been to the House of Justice. Scott Stringer, you'll be questioned, of course, by the panel. Great to have you with us again. And he and his children come to the House of Justice and feed the hungry. All right, Jennifer Jones Austin.
Yes, Rev.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You've worn many hats, so I don't know if I should call you Borough President, Assembly Person Stringer, or Controller Stringer. But that said, they've all been, in some respects, legislative oversight roles. This would be a governance and management role. So help us to appreciate what makes you qualified or prepared to lead in that respect.
Well, first of all, it's great to see everybody here and a lot of friends in the audience. I want to thank you for this opportunity, Jennifer, and former Congressman Rose. Thank you very much. And, of course, Reverend Sharpton. I think this is a great conference today. Do you agree? But I think it's a fair question. And part of what I think is missing in this city is somebody who not just has a vision, but actually can get things done. Because if you can't get it done, then you shouldn't run. And my record has been about making sure that the Comptroller's office was transformational. A lot of people talk about DEI. They talk about how to actually help communities of color to make sure that businesses, MWBEs, thrive, right? And as Comptroller, I did something no one else had the guts to do. When we realized that the pension fund and we realized that corporate boards in America did not have diversity, I started the Boardroom Accountability Project and said it is not enough for people who look like me to be on those corporate boards. We need to diversify. It's good for business, but it's also good to build a ladder of talented people in finance who are black and brown and women. And I started that, and I hired Kara Wallace, the first chief diversity officer for New York City. You know who Kara is. She works with Reverend Sharpton, and we started to transform the pension fund. No one did this in the country except me. That qualifies me to be mayor and represent a diverse city, and I was very proud to do it.
Thank you. Max?
Mr. Comptroller, I want to talk about public safety. Talk to us about your history on this issue. Defunding the police was a big issue years ago. Now it's really about public safety for all and justice and fairness for all in policing and otherwise. Where have you stood on this issue in the past, and where do you stand on it now?
Well, I grew up in Washington Heights, uptown in the 1970s. There were 2,000 murders a year back then. And my mom used to say to my brother and I, you got to sit in the conductor car when you're on the train. Remember the conductor car? How many people know the conductor car, right? There was been a whole group of kids for 20 years who didn't even know there is a conductor car. But now I say to my 13-year-old and 11-year-old, can you find the conductor car? These are not my grandchildren, by the way. These are my kids. I just want to let you know that. If this was church, people would say, "Amen, Scott. You okay?" But I tell you this because we got to keep our babies safe. We got to keep our children safe. That's the job of the mayor. But make no mistake, we got to have justice equally. That's why I was the first person who looked like me who said we have to end stop, question, and frisk, because we cannot have young people of color be more afraid of the police than the criminals. And we fought for that. I was arrested during the Diallo case, civil disobedience, because we needed justice, stood with Reverend Sharpton for justice. So you can walk and chew gum at the same time. You can fight for justice and police reform, but you could also do what I'm going to do, which is hire 3,000 more police officers, align policing with mental health, and then we're going to have to get our communities to join the police force because no one is signing up. 8,000 people took the police exam. 60,000 people took the sanitation department exam. Do you see the disconnect? And we need a mayor who's going to understand about retention and about building a new generation of police officers. So I don't want to get stuck in the mud of 2021 and 2019. 2025 is here now. And we need a mayor who's a manager, as you started out this meeting. We need somebody who understands all the city agencies, because think about this, you're right. I audited NYCHA 19 times. Not once, I didn't do it on a checklist. I was on them 19 times. I looked at homeless shelters and found 18,000 violations in homeless shelters. And I have a plan to build tens of thousands of affordable housing units. I call it Mitchell-Lama 2.0. Let's take the city-owned land that we own, you own it, I own it. Let's reinvest it and build the affordable housing that we need. We don't say the word low-income housing anymore, and we must and we should, because we have to make sure that people can start in the beginning and rise up and make sure as they're getting a living, they have affordability in the city. The people who are leaving the city, right, the people who are leaving, it's not the billionaires. They just bought a second home. They went to Texas, and they went to Florida, and then the mosquitoes came, and then they realized they were living in these places, and like, well, I'll just come back to my mansion. But you know who's leaving? The people who make $60,000, $80,000, $70,000 a year, because the rent is too high, inflation is too high, and if we don't start electing mayors who know what the hell they're doing, we are all going to have to leave, because this city needs real leadership that knows city government.
Thank you so much. So you went to affordability, and there is a new national true cost of economic security measure that was inspired by the New Yorkers mandating that New York City annually calculate the true cost of living. This national true cost of economic security measure says that here in New York, right now, that 62%, I should say across the state, 62% of New Yorkers are economically insecure. It says that here in New York City, if you look at a borough such as the Bronx, 86% of families with children are not economically secure. That means they cannot meet their daily needs. They cannot weather an economic storm. They can't save and plan for retirement, for their children's futures. What would you do about that? How do we ensure that New Yorkers are economically secure if they decide to stay here?
Jennifer, this is the biggest challenge, maybe the biggest challenge we face. As mayor, I think we have to start with the families of this city. We have people who are struggling to pay the rent. We have single parents raising children. And the amount of wage is not keeping up with inflation and the high cost of living in New York City. So here's the plan that I would enact if I am mayor in January. We're going to start with child care. We must give families relief when it comes to child care. It costs $19,000 a kid just so a parent can go to work. That doesn't work if you're making $35,000 a year. So we need to cut child care costs in half, and my Tri-Share Child Plan would do that. We must baseline 3K and pre-K. And we also have to make sure that we extend the school day, not just so our kids can learn and have tutoring and chess and athletics and extra help, but we also have to keep them in school so that parents can work. That is crucial to the city. We've got to give this relief for people who this matters to. Now the question is, everyone is going to tell you this, but you got to have a mayor who can actually accomplish it. And that's why it matters that I served in the state assembly. It matters as Manhattan Borough President I took on these issues, and it matters as controller that we upended the status quo of being an elected official. Think about this. We talk about safety. Max is very supportive and big on safety, and you talk passionately about it. You also talk about justice and equal justice. But I'll give you something. In the pension fund, as we were building our pension fund, I made sure we did big things and took on powerful fights. I divested $4 billion from fossil fuel for our children's future. We did that with the trustees, the union trustees. We also divested from private prisons, right? We did that too. And a lot of people talk about guns. I took our holdings out of the gun manufacturers. I tell you this because it seems easy to do, but it took me years to figure out how to get it done. And we need a mayor who's going to take his time, or her time, figure out the plan, build capacity in the city agencies, because here's the secret about being mayor. No one knows how to be mayor because you don't go to school to be mayor. So you got to know what you don't know. I try to tell Cuomo that. You don't know everything. What you got to understand, he doesn't, he thinks he does. If you want to talk about that for my time, but I'm not going to.
We're going to stay to you. Stay on you.
I'm going to stay on me. You got to know how to build capacity. It matters who your deputy mayors are. It matters how you can create the programs you want by the people you bring in. My diverse controller's office was unlike anything you've ever seen. I was not the smartest person in the room. And on days that I wasn't doing my job. Why can't we just have a mayor who's not afraid to bring in people who can run the MTA, fight for CUNY, build the next generation of affordable housing, align policing with mental health, but making sure that we do not have crime waves in the subway, and talk truth to power to the people in the city, and do it for 4 years, take 30 years of experience, and skin in the game with my own kids, and build an administration that says, we have attracted the best and the brightest from every background, from every race, from every corner of the city. I'm going to do that as mayor, I promise you.
Excellent, man.
So, look, and I'm going to stop being polite. Donald Trump's a psychopath, right? And I guess the Rev left, so I had to just
preach, Rose.
But we've had candidates say that they want to seize golf courses. We've had candidates say they want to withhold taxes. And I know where they're coming from, right? You can't meet crazy with this wishy-washy subtlety. So what are you going to do to stand up to this nut job who doesn't care about any of us?
And you say the other candidates were a little off the hook? Well, let me say one thing. First of all, I just want to address the golf courses. My plan is to take 1,000 parcels of city-owned land, parcels of land, and build the next generation of Mitchell-Lama housing. The golf course thing, I got to tell you something. When you have city-owned golf courses and kids of all different backgrounds, including kids of color, they're learning to play golf too. So let's not take that away so fast. No disrespect. But I will tell you this. I will tell you this on Donald Trump. You cannot play checkers against these folks. You got to play chess. So I'm not going to make a Trump freak-out speech. I'm going to tell you how I will approach him. First of all, I'm going to shut down ports of entry that Trump can hurt this city. What do I mean by that? The next time he takes $80 million from us for immigrants, for people who are struggling, I'm going to bring the banks in as mayor, Citibank and all the banks that we put our money into, and I'm going to say, you got to give us an early warning system. You have to work with us. You make millions of dollars with these deposits. You cannot simply let Trump take our money. Right? We cannot do that. And then the second thing we have to do in this fight is we have to be strategic. I've said that the city government should put aside $500 million. The state should match $500 million. And that's the reserve money we use. So if they take our money, we can ensure that daycare centers, housing organizations, organizations that fight for civil rights, lawyers and attorneys, that we're able to put that money back in and then get to a point by the time we have 18 months or 16 months yet, we are at a place where Hakeem Jeffries could be Speaker of the House of Representatives. That's what we got to do.
Excellent. We are at 12 minutes, so we are out of time, but we appreciate your being with us. Everybody,
Thank you.
this is mayoral candidate Scott Stringer.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
You look great. Thank you, brother.
All right, it looks like we are ready to go with our next mayoral candidate. And by way of full disclosure, I'll say that this candidate is also my senator, my state senator, and that is Senator Zellnor Myrie. Good to see you. Good to have you with us, Senator Myrie.
Good to be here.
All right, so you live in Brooklyn, New York. We've been talking about how powerful is Brooklyn. And I imagine, I guess if you were to become mayor, you'd be spending all of your time in New York City. I'm just going to put it right out here. New York City is increasingly unaffordable. And we don't even talk enough about, we talk a lot about affordability. Everybody's got an affordability plan, but they do not have an economic security plan, knowing full well that affordability is only as good as how much money you have in savings, right? And if you don't have any money in savings, then you're one paycheck away, you're one disaster away from being homeless, not being able to pay, for groceries and the like. Rising unaffordability and economic insecurity. What will you do about that?
Thank you for the question. And before I get into the answer, let me just say how much of an honor it is for me to be here with you, to be with a constituent, but also someone who fought for our true cost of living, charter-mandated requirements from the city to tell us exactly how much it costs for you to survive and thrive here. Listen, the scriptures say faith without works is what? And that's, I think, the New King James Version. Let me read from the New York City translation. Don't just talk about it, be about it. And I have, in my career in the state Senate, I haven't just talked about it. I've done the thing. You got a lot of people that come before you in this political season, and they're going to talk about a lot of the issues. People that come here and talk about how our homes have been stolen from us. Talk about how deeds were taken from our senior citizens. I did something about it. I wrote a law that made deed theft a crime. That's on the books right now. Not just talking about it, but being about it. There's a lot of people that come before us and talk to us about gun violence, talk to us about the tragedy. But I didn't just talk about it. I wrote the first state law in the country that declared gun violence a public health crisis. And then I wrote another law to hold the bad actors in the gun industry responsible for the guns coming into our community. I didn't just talk about it. I was being about it. We talk about mass incarceration, the impact that it has had on families, the impact that it has had on black men being able to put food on the table, to get work, to get a job. A lot of people talked about it. I wrote something called the Clean Slate Act. It said if you were convicted of a crime, you've paid your dues, you've remained out of trouble, we will seal those convictions for purposes of getting a job, for purposes of getting financial aid, for purposes of applying for housing. And so when I come before you today and I answer these questions, I'm not just talking about being mayor. I want to be your mayor. I've proven that we can get it done. And what I'd like to do as the next mayor is a couple of things on the economic security front. One, we need more housing and we need paths to home ownership. I have a plan to deliver 1 million homes over the next 10 years, to put people on the path to home ownership so that they can stay in the city, many of whom have made the city attractive in the first place. I have a jobs program. I want 50,000 more summer youth jobs. Right now, we have teenagers that are on our waiting list every single summer. I want to change that. I want to make it universal so that everyone has access. But we got black businesses that are struggling as well. My mom had a jewelry shop on Flatbush Avenue that she had to close down because she didn't have access to capital. She couldn't navigate the city's bureaucracy. I want to change that. I debuted a black agenda this week that includes a black business accelerator fund. Give people the capital that they need so that they can be on their feet and they can achieve this economic security. Listen, if we do not have a city that is affordable, that extends pre-K and 3K past 2:30 p.m., because who gets off at 2:30 p.m., and extends it to 6 p.m., if we do not have after school for everybody, for all, if we do not have homes that we cannot afford, we will be a city that looks very different from the one that I grew up in and the one my parents came to in order to get the opportunity. So I plan to be a mayor that doesn't just talk about it, but a mayor that's actually about action.
Max?
Look, as a parent, that after-school plan would be very much appreciated. I want to talk, look, New York City government's a beast. It's probably the most complex government in the country outside of the federal government. Tell us about your management experience and your management philosophy. Because I think everyone would collectively agree New York City needs a mayor who's going to hit the ground running on day one.
You got to have a vision, and you got to have the ability to appoint people willing to execute that vision. What we have seen, unfortunately, in this administration and some administrations in the past, is that those who were appointed to making really important decisions were out of their depth, did not have the subject matter expertise. In some cases, were corrupt. This is not the leadership that we need in this moment. I've been able to bring together big coalitions when people said, you cannot get this done. When we proposed the Clean Slate Act, a lot of people said, you know, the criminal justice stuff is politically volatile. You can't get it done in this moment. I said, okay, watch us. We got Fortune 500 companies, JP Morgan, Chase, Microsoft, Verizon. We got every major labor union in the state. We got criminal justice advocates. We got our clergy, everybody to the table. I wrote 8 different versions of this bill in order to get it done. That level of attention to detail, that ability to work with a lot of stakeholders, that is the job of mayor. But sometimes you got to step up and make some noise too. They try to close SUNY Downstate in my district, the only state-run hospital in the entire city, and that was not a time for me to be kind and for me to take people to lunch and for us to have some tea. Now I had to bust them up. Had to stand up for the community. And as the mayor, you have the largest bully pulpit, not in the country, in the world. It's the media capital of the world. So my management style is going to be not just responding to public opinion, but shaping public opinion. It's our responsibility to have people believe in the vision and then appoint the appropriate individuals to execute it.
Let me just say, you must be really good at busting them up. Because I live in Brooklyn, and now I hear every morning on the television when I'm watching the news that Downstate Medical Center is now actually getting more money and is expanding, not closing, not shutting down, but getting more money for the community. Well done. I just had to put that out there. So, speaking of busting them up, how will you handle the encroachment of a federal executive body that thinks that its federal executive orders, concerning DEI and more should apply to New York City when in actuality they really don't legally?
This is a really important point, and I say this not just as a state senator, not just as a candidate for mayor, but I'm also a lawyer. And let me just, as an aside, I'm only a lawyer because of the public schools in this city. What we saw during the civil rights era was the utilization and the evolution of the use of the 14th Amendment. What we take for granted today, the protection that the 14th Amendment provides, how it cut through segregation, how it allowed for us to be sitting in this audience today, that took years and years and years of creative uses of the 14th Amendment against the federal government. Well, guess what? I've read the Constitution, and in this moment, I think we got to do the same thing with the 10th Amendment. And you guys say, okay, Z, so what's the 10th Amendment? Well, the 10th Amendment talks about the powers that are not given to the federal government by the Constitution, that those powers fall on the state. And if it doesn't fall on the state, you know who it goes to? The people. The people. That's me. That's you. That's our neighbors. That's our localities. So I plan to go on the offense. We're going to take them to court. We're going to hire more lawyers in our law department. I released a frontline agenda to say, listen, ain't nobody going to push New York City around. To me, it is anti-New York City. It is anti-New York City. I'm born and raised here, y'all. It is anti-New York City to let a bully push you and to not push back. So we're going to hire 50 more lawyers for the law department. We're going to go on the offensive, and if they try to do anything that's unconstitutional, as you referenced, we're going to bust them up. We're going to bust them up. Because you don't have to have all of the answers in this moment. Sometimes people get confused and they think, well, I can't act if I don't know exactly what to do. No, you got to throw a punch. You got to stand up. People want to see you fight. And that's what I plan to do, but I'm going to have my lawyer hat on. We coming for them with the 10th Amendment.
All right, you got one more, Max.
So one last question. You've received pretty massive attention for your housing plan, and you're going big. And it seems like you're the only candidate who says, well, if you want to lower the price of housing, you got to build a lot more housing. The problem is that it seems that people don't want big houses built around them. I grew up in Park Slope. You go there, no one wants a skyscraper in Park Slope. They say they're liberal. They don't want to build. How are you going to deal with this?
So let me just say this, and I know my time is running.
Okay, you could go over.
I can answer the question.
Rev is in here.
Okay, all right, so we're going a little over.
We good.
Let me say this. Not only am I prepared to deal with this, but I have already been dealing with it in my current role as a state senator. So I represent the 20th State Senate District in Central Brooklyn. If y'all know Prospect Park, I represent the park and every neighborhood that touches it. Now, I grew up on the east side of the park, on Flatbush. Big up yourself one time. I grew up on the east side. In the past 10 years, there have been 4,000 units created on the east side of the park. But in some of the neighborhoods on the west side of the park, like Windsor Terrace, that number is close to 300. So when there was a proposed development in Windsor Terrace, I supported it because I said, this is good for everybody. Why is it that the building should only happen on the east side of the park where most people look like me, and on the west side of the park where most people respectfully look like you, Congressman, that they shouldn't have the building?
He means good looking.
Good looking, clearly. That's not right. Yes, now you're good looking. But everyone should have to share in the solution to our affordability crisis. And we've seen in the past that they didn't want people that look like us to live in certain neighborhoods. So we are not going to abide by that philosophy when I'm at City Hall. We are going to build enough so that everybody can afford to be in a neighborhood where there are good schools, where you have transportation, nice parks, access to amenities. That is the kind of city that I want to live in. I'm born and raised here. My wife and I, we live a couple of blocks away from the same elementary school that both of us went to. And we want to put roots down, but the median cost of a home is $1 million in central Brooklyn. That's not right. We got to do something about it, and I have a vision and a plan to get it done.
Excellent. Well, thank you, State Senator, mayoral candidate, bust them up, Zellnor Myrie.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, good deal. All right, we have one more candidate we're going to bring out. Before we do, I just need to let you all know that NAN's weekly DEI protest is going to take part beginning at 4:30 p.m. They're going to protest as they do weekly in front of Bill Acton's office, and this is now the 63rd week they've been doing it. We've been doing it. So, those who are going to march, protest, do so, gather at 4:30 p.m. in the lobby. We'll be distributing T-shirts and we'll march from the hotel to 787 11th Avenue. One more thing to take note of, we have a health panel here at 4:30 p.m. So those of you who do not want to march can stay right here in this room for the panel. Good deal? All right, let's bring out the last, but certainly not least, a longtime friend and someone who's been a friend not only to me, but to the city of New York, the state of New York, and the federal government, and that is mayoral candidate Michael Blake. So let's get to it. You have, as I said when introducing you, you've served in many places and in many roles. You have been, in many respects, a lifelong public servant. And now you have decided to step up to serve as mayor of the city of New York. As I've said to a few other candidates, you've served in legislative roles. You've served in leadership roles in the DNC. You have not had a leadership role governing or managing. The city of New York is a big, it's a bit behemoth institution to run. What do you believe are the critical qualities of leadership and management that are needed? And what do you think about your ability to possess them and carry them out?
No justice. No justice. Just want to make sure we still have the energy in the room. Peace and blessings, everybody. Let me start to say thank you to everybody in this room, everyone that's watching, because to your question, to the one and only Jennifer Jones Austin, who has been a consistent champion and actually fighting for our people over and over again, right? and to Congressman Max Rose, which we're gonna let him have a handsome moment, but I'm gonna let y'all know right now, you saved the best and most attractive candidate for last. Let me be real clear about that. Let me make sure we're out here. We gotta remind them about that sexual chocolate from Jamaica and the Bronx out here. We gotta remind them of that right here, okay? Let me start, we're gonna rock that melanin. Let me start by being very clear to the question here. We need a new generation of leadership. We need to have someone who is serious about helping our people. As the only person in this race who can actually say that I have defeated Donald Trump when I was the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, as the only person in this race who can say that I have White House, State House, and local experience, as the only person in this race who can say right now that I have been a public servant and I run my own small businesses, I am uniquely qualified for this moment. I've been put here at this moment right now, and let me be clear, because I'm Jamaican, I'm used to tree jobs out here right now, right? And so we come, Missy my Jamaican massive out here right there, right? So in this moment of management, this is you asking yourself, who is ready to manage New York City, the $114 billion budget, with a vision that understands the moment that we're in? What I do, I appreciate that vote right there. What I do with Atlas Strategy Group, what I do with Next Level Sports Entertainment, what I do with the Kairos Democracy Project is tied to that question. And there's a lot of these folks that are running who need Obamacare because they have amnesia, because while they were out here trying to help themselves, I was doing the work to try to make sure Kamala Harris became president and fight for that. And if more folks would have spent time doing that, we wouldn't be in this mess that we're in right now. There's a lot of people who want to talk about how they want black votes, but they won't support black women and black men all the time. And to the point around management, to the question and about seriousness, you know, I listened to the first speaker, the former governor. I always am amazed when he comes into these rooms. In 2008, he was the same one who said you can't shuck and jive for votes. But now all of a sudden we have amnesia when he wants to be mayor. So if you want someone who is qualified, capable, prepared, with level of experience at all three levels, my name is Michael Blake, and I'm ready to be your mayor of New York City.
Assemblyman, Vice Chairman, I could give you a lot of...
Just call me Mom. I'm Michael, you Max. We do awkward there.
So, you worked for President Obama.
Don't we miss President Obama right now, y'all?
I have a simple question for you, but I think it has big implications. What did you learn from President Obama about governing, and how will you take that to City Hall?
That you shouldn't break the law. That you should actually be focused on helping people. You know, the current incumbent who is now running as an independent he's in this situation because the law was broken. I'm gonna stay focused right now to your question around where we're at here. Think about the things that happened under President Obama. We have health care the way we did not have before. We were able to end the war that they said couldn't be ended. We were able to put more money in folks, and let me be clear, black folk pocket. We were able to say very clearly that we will not allow this nonsense to continue. And when this moment that we're in right now, you need to have a mayor who is willing to call out the anti-blackness that is happening in this country, where they are clearly going after us for who we are. Then we think about in this moment, I led the urban entrepreneurship program in the White House. I was the one that championed the effort around minority women businesses, where there was a greater increase for black and brown business to get access to contracts than any president ever. We were focused on Obamacare, specifically around the black maternal health crisis, because we were sick and tired of seeing what was happening in our communities. So right now, you have a racist, sexist demagogue in the White House, Elon and Trump. And so to that degree, you need someone who can actually say, who understands what a White House is supposed to be doing, who understands what's supposed to be happening in a State House, and can make it happen on the ground. The reason, Congressman, I was just endorsed yesterday by 13 clergy members across the city is that people understand that you need someone who is willing to be very clear. It is too expensive in New York City. We can help people and help black folk to win. It is hard to have a home in New York City. We can help black folk, all folks to win. If we actually listened to Jennifer Jones Austin and implemented the true cost of living, we can have a chance to win. So what did I learn from President Obama? When you listen to black folk, you win.
When you think about, affordability, and for me, I go well beyond affordability because I think affordability, for far too long, we've as a nation centered on acute deprivation, just enough to get by, appreciating that if we just tell people it's enough to get by, they should be all right, while you have wealthy individuals trying to amass more and more and more. And what the great divide often is that we don't have the ability as people maybe with low income or middle income to grow basic wealth, enough money to have money in the bank when things get tough, and savings. How would you help ensure, and I essentially call that economic security.
Absolutely.
How would you help ensure economic security, not just affordability, so people can actually get ahead and stay ahead?
We have to help New Yorkers make and keep more money in your pocket. We have to have policies that are actually understanding the totality of the experience and not just talk about someone being at the poverty line. Let's be clear about this, and shout out to my wife and the girls that are watching. Shout out to my mama that's watching. I understand, black love is a real thing. We understand that right now here. We have these conversations around housing all the time. So let me be very specific and clear, and we rolled out our whole vision at BlakeForNYC.com. If I say something right now, I want you to agree and just say Blake for NYC to your question. Is that all right? We should not have credit scores when it comes to rent and home ownership application. We need to make sure we're actually building more housing so that black folk can have truly affordable housing. We need to make it clear that if you live in NYCHA, you should have heat and hot water and elevators that actually work for you. We have to change it so we have local median income because AMI is not working for us right now. I'm saying these things because we have to change how we're actually calculating what's going on in our communities. And that means we got to go a step further. That means we have to make sure that we are increasing the income thresholds because too often you have to be rich or poor enough to get access to homes in New York. We have to have a Mitchell-Lama 2.0 that is focused on middle-class housing. And if they don't actually implement that, rescind the incentives to those developers. But then we have to address what's going on. The 1 out of 8 New York City public school students that are homeless right now because we're not seriously helping them. But if we had a new vision of civics, financial literacy, and mental health to help our children and actually make sure we reduce the cost, then you can look at it in totality. We talk about the true cost of living because it is time for us not to talk about just getting by. We need black and brown folk to thrive. And that will only happen if you have a seriousness of access to capital contracts and investments, a seriousness of building more housing that is truly affordable, a seriousness in actually having the metrics that are real to our communities, and a seriousness that we will put more time into our people. When people ask, how do you pay for this? First of all, there should be a vacant apartment tax for someone who's not living in New York City. If they just have a unit that's sitting around, that will actually lead to us generating more funds for our people. Collect on the $2 billion of unclaimed parking fees and fines that exist right now. And take it a step further. I appreciate it. I heard a lot of candidates stealing my last idea. When Donald Trump comes for us, don't send federal taxes to D.C. You have to be clear about being serious to that degree. If you do these things, you can pay for it, and you can actually make sure that we win.
So let's close out with public safety.
Do I get the extra minute? You get Zellnor
You got
extra
time,
minute.
you got time.
Yeah, listen, you got it, buddy. So, public safety. Very simple goal in mind, North Star, difficult to implement, and that's safety and justice for all. How do you plan on executing that?
Let's address the challenges before someone is incarcerated. The institutional racism that exists within our city, where people don't have access to quality jobs, quality homes. It is simply too hard for people to make it. You're working multiple jobs and then you're trying to figure out what's going on. I want to make it real clear for my people. I'm from the Bronx, but anyone can appreciate this right here. That young cat that is standing on the corner is a mathematical genius. They just have to be directed to something else right now. And so when we talk about it, when you look at the 6 crimes that are typically studied, Overwhelmingly, we're talking about robbery and larceny. That means someone has been struggling with an economic condition as well as struggling around mental health, where we're not putting in funding with overdose prevention centers, drawing down with opioid settlement funds, addressing the stigma that happens that we don't want to talk about what's going on with mental health in black and brown communities, and being very serious about what is happening right now. You can have public safety and criminal justice and accountability at the same time. If you have increase around community policing with officers with body cameras on, let them do that, but have mental health professionals actually addressing the mental health concerns so you can actually keep people safe in that degree. I was heard earlier about Rikers. Yes, we have to make sure that we have changes with Rikers. Rikers has to close, no question, full stop. But make sure that we actually help people have jobs, housing, education, actual quality services so they have a chance to turn their lives around. So when we think about why I am running, I make it very clear to every person in this room. If we help you make and keep more money in your pocket, if we help you have truly affordable housing, if we help you have public safety, education, transportation, and health that are all intertwined, then you actually have a chance for a city where we're not talking about safety on the back end. Maybe if we help the kid have a book in their book bag rather than arresting them for a dime bag, things would be better in our city right now. And so these are the things that what we can do. And so for every person in this room that is ready for the next generation of black leadership, who is qualified, capable, and prepared for this moment, I am asking you right now that every single time I've run a race, I've been an underdog, but we win many times because I remind people, as it said in Mark, when Jesus was asleep in the boat and they got to the other side, they met the man named Legion who was trying to figure out how to get help in that moment. After he healed the man as Legion, the man wanted to go with him and he said, no, go and tell your friends what I have done. Go and tell your friends about how Michael Blake created the My Brother's Keeper program. Go and tell your friends how I established the MWE program that was expanding in greater ways. Go and tell your friends that you can be proud around black leadership right now. We went from no house in Jamaica to the Black House in Northwestern to the White House in DC, and you're going to send me to City Hall. My name is Michael Blake, and I approve this message.
His name is mayoral candidate Michael Blake. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Congressman Rose. And I want to thank everyone who joined us this afternoon. I know that New York City is going to be all right because you all have stayed in the house and you've listened and you've leaned in. So thank you all. We're about to have our next panel focusing on health. Thank you all.
Hello, everyone. There is one more panel in here, the Black Mental Health Conversation. If you all are able, please stay and stand by to hear from some of the best experts in the country around prioritizing and destigmatizing Black mental health. Hello, everyone. We are going to start the next panel. Thank you all for staying back. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Alicia Butler. I serve as the Health Equity Director for the National Action Network, and I am so excited to bring, thank you. I am so excited to bring a conversation around Black mental health and expanding that conversation to discuss how we can destigmatize Black mental health and really start prioritizing it within our community. And so, I don't know if you all remember, but back in July, we were in Harlem at the House of Justice, and we had a commission hearing where we brought in members of Congress, where we brought in some folks with real lived experiences, where we brought in some of the top CEOs of mental health organizations, and we were able to have a conversation about what mental health resources, specifically for Black men and boys, look like. And if you all were there, you remember how great of a conversation it was, and we have some of those experts that were on that panel here today, as well as some new friends. And so, without further ado, I'm really going to just allow them to speak, and I'm going to can I have a little quiet, please? I promise this is a great it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I am going to defer now to the person who will be leading this conversation, who is also the person that helped me organize the event in Harlem with the House of Justice, and also helped me organize this panel too, because he's connected like that. So his name is